Welcome viewers to Historical Journeys. Threes Carter had not a great explanation to imagine that this day would be more unusual than some other. The sky was as yet blue, the birds were all the while singing, and his home was all the while standing. Be that as it may, out of nowhere, things took a turn for the odd. Carter saw that a mystifying gap had opened up in his yard, and he had no clue about where it prompted. At the point when an odd opening opened up in this person's yard, he revealed a baffling underground chamber. But before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It only takes a second, and you won't miss any of our future videos. Let's get started. In any event, standing straight over this opening was no assistance. Seeing through the scary darkness was unthinkable. Carter must take care of business and do some examining. A lot of motion pictures and different works of fiction have rotated around bizarre openings in the ground like these, and some of them are, to be perfectly honest, very frightening. Genuine will in general be more ordinary than fiction, obviously, yet a consciousness of a portion of these works might well have provided Carter an opportunity to stop and think for thought. However, harrowing tales to the side, Carter moved toward the puzzling opening, getting very close so he could have a superior view. He started digging, determined to solve this puzzle, when he noticed something odd from here, what appeared to be a set of blocks inside. That as Carter carved his direction through the earth, obviously he'd revealed some kind of synthetic chamber. However, what exactly was this thing's purpose and contained? How had he never understood that such a spot existed under his own personal home? Carter was unexpectedly confronted with a ton of inquiries. Furthermore, as you could expect, the web-based world had a lot of wild hypotheses for the man to consider. Now, back in the mid-year of 2018, Carter went to the web-based local area of Ash for help. Carter posted an opening opened up in my nursery, and after looking into it further, it is a block chamber that is around 6 feet down, presently, and around 4 feet wide. The house was worked in 1888 and is situated in an unassuming community in rustic Suffolk, Britain. Perhaps the area of Carter's home could give a few insights about the secretive opening's motivation. The English province of Suffolk has various distinguishing strengths, all things considered. It just so happens there are likewise significant connections among Suffolk and the Harry Potter establishment. A little local area in a spot called Lavenham probably roused God rings empty where Harry Potter was conceived. Also, in actuality, Ralph Fiennes, the one who depicted Voldemort in the films, is from Suffolk. Perhaps Carter contemplated whether there was a heavenly clarification for the odd opening in his yard. However, perhaps almost certain was something to do with the earth close to Carter's home. Suffolk has a seriously shifted geology. The scene is characterized by slopes and forests. However, it's subterranean where things get truly intriguing. Suffolk is purportedly home to an underground organization of passages, and they have a few pretty creepy stories joined to them. Perhaps this might have made sense of Carter's odd opening. One story requires us back years and years when a man was investigating one of the evidently spooky underground paths to keep his buddies over the ground. There's one more passage probably concealed underneath Suffolk with a fascinating story, in spite of the fact that there aren't any apparitions associated with this one. Essentially, the path is said to have been worked for the 17th century English ruler Charles II. Other supposed boroughs in Suffolk might have been developed for undeniably less vainglorious reasons. Word has it that there were a few paths that connected the region's shore, with bars arranged further inland. Such passages would have permitted bootleggers rolling in from the ocean to ship their liquor wrongfully to nearby foundations without identification. Somewhere else in Suffolk, Catholics might have visited underground entries in hundreds of years past to stow away from the English of Ortiz, and during the Second Great War passages might have proved to be useful for individuals shielding from air assaults. A considerable lot of the alleged underground designs in Suffolk are likely to talk. However, some are most certainly genuine. 16, for example, media reports began to arise about a shelter in the district that had been developed amidst the virus war. This thing was around 14 feet deep down, worked to persevere through an atomic impact. The underground safe house was made in the last part of the 50s, fully intent on safeguarding volunteers right after an assault. In such a situation, these workers would have been entrusted with observing the circumstance on a superficial level. Then 2016 UK paper, The Day-to-Day Mail distributed the comments of a visited the person cover. This individual expressed it was truly confined going down the stepping stool to get in. I can barely comprehend how hard it would have been for volunteers with their pack. In addition to the numerous bunkers and tunnels, flint is known to exist in Suffolk and the surrounding area. For instance, a location known as the Grimes Graves is located approximately 5 miles from the town of Brandon. Here Neolithic individuals used to dug for the stone which they then, at that point, produce into valuable things. There are likewise chalk mines in Suffolk found right beyond town called Cover Street Edmonds Harganger Court Caves, as this mine is known as presumably a large portion of interest these days as a result of the animals that live there. Behind the barbecues that hold individuals back from entering the mines are a few types of vat. Yet, rock chalk and bats aren't the main fortunes that have been found in Suffolk. Over in a town called West Trow, fine utensils made of silver were found in the ground. Fundamentally, then, at that point, Suffolk is home to an entire host of fascinating stuff stowed away beneath the surface. So remembering that there were a lot of motivations to accept the trees, Carter had coincidentally found something energizing when that opening opened up in his yard. Yet, was it associated with any of these fascinating underground elements of Suffolk? It isn't clear the way in which mindful Carter was of his house province's rich underground history when he previously detected the opening. Although the object's function was not entirely clear, it was unquestionably an interesting find. What's more, it wasn't well before Carter's nursery had become something of a novice archaeological dig. Outfitted with anything that instruments they might get their hands on, Carter and his associates researched the opening further. This time, it was a button produced using a metal of some kind. This wasn't precisely a huge find, obviously. However, it did appear to show advance in the examination. Who knew what else was down there? In the strange hole, Carter appeared to be stumped by the discovery of an oddly shaped artifact. One individual returned with seemingly a sensibly smart reaction. They composed deciding by the bone construction, it's presumably a pig bone. In all probability a tailbone. Naturally, since we do not know this individual's credentials, it is probably best to disregard their theory. Someone else, in the interim, expressed their own viewpoints. They wrote, "My guess is an old cow femur or a large mammal, but it's definitely not a fossil because it's hollow." The delight of the web, obviously, is that we're probably never to find out. Many individuals had a hypothesis about its starting points. This hypothesis doesn't precisely hold up, particularly when you consider that the individual who concocted it straightforwardly conceded to just needing to utilize the word "voobly yet." So on the off chance that not new blue yet, then what else might the entire at any point address? One individual didn't advance a hypothesis, yet they did sensibly encourage Carter to contact his neighborhood verifiable society for help. A fine idea. However, the analyst likewise urged Carter to look for the assistance of an exorcist too, for good measure. Not every person felt that the opening was fundamentally spooky, yet they made a few dreadful examinations. Various analysts noticed that the pit appeared to look like the one that shows up peacefully of the sheep. A few additional practical hypotheses, be that as it may, were likewise advanced by the Ash People group. Certain individuals felt that the secret was very straightforward, basic yet nauseating. The chamber underneath Carter's yard, these individuals accepted was a cesspool. To lay it out plainly, a cesspool is a compartment explicitly utilized for gathering sewage. Fundamentally, then it appeared to include that Carter had been exploring a nauseating old cesspool. In any case, there was another hypothesis for Carter to consider. Even though it wasn't as exciting as a haunted pit, it was certainly better than the possibility that the chamber would be evaluated. It was suggested by some Ember users to be a soakaway, which is a pit filled with rubble used to soak up water after heavy rains. Soakaways are valuable for facilitating the chance of a surface becoming waterlogged. This thusly assists with safeguarding any properties inside the pit's area from being overflowed. The water that then, at that point, fills the soakaway will gradually scatter through the dirt, meaning it very well may be valuable for the nursery's generally speaking well-being to given the more terrifying, nauseating other options. It was likely very attractive for Carter to imagine that the opening he'd been exploring was a soakaway. He remarked after additional unearthing and evaluation on day 2 of the dig, "We are reasoning that it is truth be told a soakaway." What's more, in another remark, Carter made sense of that his little archaeological dig had concocted another revelation. He composed likewise, "We found a line head that has been checked by a specialist as 1800 years, making it very nearly 200 years more seasoned than the house." So presently he had a feeling of the pit's age. Notwithstanding every one of the wild speculations and interest, it appears to be that Carter hadn't genuinely opened an entry into the place that is known for the undead. The gorge in his nursery wasn't a dark hole that prompted wonderland, nor was it an unnerving quiet of the sheep-type pit. In the case of nothing else, this story represents how wild our minds can be. A dark pit, it opened up in a man's terrace, and its starting points weren't quickly self-evident. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay updated with our latest videos, subscribing is the way to go. Just click that red button below and become a part of our channel family.